It's the last day of the ladder season, which means everyone is battling it out for a spot at the top. Mohamad Light, Riley, Pedro, and many others. Today we're spectating the final hours of season end top ladder, and with everything on the line, it is time to witness who will be crowned with the next #1 ladder finish. Enjoy! Alright guys, for our first game of the day we have Mohamad Light versus Ian77. This is going to be one for the ages. So we have all sorts of professional players to be spectating today. Mohamad Light playing Evo Royal Giant with the Monk and Evo Electro Dragon. Ian77 playing his trademarked Hog Rider Earthquake deck. So going to be a very interesting game. Mohamad Light is the current best player in the world, undisputed, and he's known for being able to play any deck in the game. So I'm not going to be surprised if we see him switch decks a bunch today. Ian is also very versatile and can play pretty much any deck, especially cycle decks, but I believe we'll mainly see him playing Hog Rider Earthquake and Royal Hogs Earthquake as his best decks. So if you guys thought that reaching 2,000 or even 2,500, even 3,000 medals was hard on Path of Legends, take a look at these guys, who are both above 3,600 and crossing 3,700 medals. That is absolutely insane. Just crazy numbers. Speaking of insane, Prediction Firecracker comes down for Ian. That's going to be a lot of damage, but Mohamad Light is building up a big push in the left now. Mohamad Light also gets the Fireball off on that Goblinstein Doctor, and I feel like Ian is kind of dead on this push because he has a Monk, he has an E-Drag, and he has an RG to contend with. So Cannon, really well placed, actually very far off so that the Monk is not able to deflect the cannon bullets back to itself, but the Monk is still able to deflect the Goblinstein Doctor's electro shots back at itself. Furthermore, Ian is forced to go for another cannon, and Mohamad Light is up a lot of elixir right now. Big elixir differential coming down. What he can do is probably go RG the back. Yes, exactly. So this is a great play that you can make when you're playing Royal Giant to build up a big push. You don't have to always go RG in the bridge. You can go RG in the back, and that way you can get more elixir to build up a push, plus you can cycle back to a second RG. We might even see Mohamad play multiple RGs in the same lane at a point here. And look at that Evo E-Drag just cooking that Stein, and I'm very worried for Ian right now. We see a Monk at the bridge. Mo is also back to the RG, mind you. We have exactly what I was talking about. We have the double RG push. Monk ability does come down on that Firecracker cannon and on the tower. Everything is attacking itself. Fireball on the Stein Doctor, and just like that, Ian is overwhelmed, and he did not really stand a chance at all. Mohamad Light just with the huge overwhelm. Insane game against Ian, two of the best players to ever do it. So we have some amazing games to watch today, guys, just the last hours of the season, and that win is going to put Mohamad Light at #1 in the entire world, 36.99. Alright, now we are watching Riley. Riley, I'm sure a player that all of you recognize, one of the most beloved players in the game right now, one of the best, actually the best logbait player, bar none, in the game right now. Playing his trademark deck, we have classic logbait, and so he's playing against a Japanese pro who is playing Bridge Bam with Dagger Duchess, and this is very interesting to see because Dagger Duchess has actually been making kind of a comeback in the meta recently. The reason for that is because it's just so strong against a bunch of archetypes. It's weak against some other ones, for sure, but it's very strong against others too. For example, logbait, it just hard counters logbait by itself because you can ignore a barrel sometimes. You know, I think a decoy barrel from the Evo barrel doesn't get any hits against the Duchess tower. Like, it's just absurd. So we're gonna have to see how Riley handles this matchup, because I feel like it's not going to be very easy, again, considering the opponent does have the Duchess. And what is this? The opponent is putting the spam in the bridge bam by going with his entire elixir bar at the bridge. Very easy defense for Riley, and goes Princess at the bridge as well. So a bit of a dual lane push here. Not much, because the Duchess is going to make quick work of those spear goblins, but still, arrows forced out, so a nice 3 for 3 while getting some tower damage with the Princess. So against arrows matchups, I remember Riley has told me that sometimes you do want to use Princess at the bridge as your win condition. I think what we have to see out of Riley in this game is how he's going to get damage and how he's going to defend. I mean, ultimately, that's all any deck in this game comes down to, right? But I mean, still, I feel like it's going to be pretty important to see how he's going to be able to break through against Dagger Duchess when, again, it just counters the Goblin Barrel so effectively. And also how he will defend this insane pressure. You know, Evo Ram's going to be coming soon. Split Evo Barbs can be problematic. The Ghost plus Bandit combination is problematic because you can only have one Knight for both of them. Probably going to have to see some really good Goblin Gang usage out of Riley here. Heal Spirit getting a massive connection. That's going to hurt. And that Queen is not getting targeted by the tower. We do see a nice cannon for the Queen, and an Ice Spirit does reset that Ram. But if Riley's not back to the Goblin Gang, he's in trouble. He has to go for the Evo Barrel on defense. And this is still an insane push, but the Evo Cannon nukes everything. And just like that, Riley is actually saved by the Evo Cannon. So If he didn't have that, I feel like he might have lost the entire game, but both Evos coming in clutch on defense for Riley, and actually barely any damage taken on his towers when I thought he was going to lose his entire tower there. Evo Barrel on defense, Evo Cannon on defense, and so you guys can see that if you're playing log bait, if you're in a matchup like this, you should not be afraid to go for your defensive barrels if you really need to, especially if you get overwhelmed by bridge spam cards again. Very nice spear goblin chip from that gang in the left, and so the opponent's kind of scrambling. He does get a free pump on the board, and this time Riley elects to not rock it, instead just going to pressure, pressure, pressure. Now he gets a gang at the bridge, and then a barrel to snipe that pump. Very smart play, I think, and still forced out quite a bit of elixir, you know, the bandit plus heal spirit to protect that pump. I think that was a pretty worthwhile trade. And so something that I've noticed against Dagger Duchess is that you want to pressure it a lot when it's low on daggers. And that is a beautiful activation by Riley. He is known for this. I always see him doing that activation against bridge spam especially. And so if you're playing against bandit and you have a princess that's going to get sniped, you can use the ice spirit to activate king. Look at that beautiful placement by Riley, and that's going to do a great job. Now you guys might be wondering why the opponent's going for that pump in that placement, and I believe the reason for that is because the opponent does not want to give Riley a free rocket on the left side tower. You know, there's no other place he could really pump except in that right side lane, because if it's anywhere in the left at all, it will get rocketed off and just kind of get taken out by the rocket, plus giving Riley tower damage in the lane that he wants damage in. So rocket on defense, actually missing the battle ram in true Riley fashion. I'm a bit concerned for him now, but I feel like with the activation of the king tower, he's not too screwed over here. I mean, it's going to be a tough defense for sure, but that activated king is coming in so clutch, and the opponent doesn't actually have a big spell, so all Riley has to do is hold on, and he can rocket the tower once at the very last second of the game. I know a lot of you guys hate that playstyle, but it's true. That's something that he can elect to do if he wants to, which he probably will. He still played this game very well, though. He's still in the lead, doing a very good job of splitting his damage between both lanes, not really overcommitting on defense or offense in any vein, and so as a result, he's able to maintain his elixir, maintain his resources well, and so splitting damage is a very effective tactic, especially because bridge spam is a dual lane pressure deck, so Riley can just defend this final push, go for his last rocket on the tower if he even needs it. Doesn't really need it at all, actually, but he might just go for it for fun. He won't, he'll still full defend, and that's going to be a great win against bridge spam with a Dagger Duchess. So I feel like it's not the easiest of matchups, again with the Duchess especially, but really good defense, really good offense, and especially the king tower activation, I feel like truly changed the course of that match. Very well done by Riley with classic log bait. Okay, and we have Dominic versus Jorge Luis. Now, if you guys do not know these names, Dominic, the undisputed #1 best Lava Hound player in the world. Jorge Luis, the #1 best Giant Graveyard player of all time. And I'm one of the biggest haters of Giant Graveyard, and I still have respect for Jorge Luis. That's how good he is. Although Giant first play, essentially, coming down there. And Doom going for the Rune Giant same lane. So this is the newest meta deck in the Lava Hound arsenal, guys. It's going to be Rune Giant Lava Hound with the Evo Lumberjack. Honestly, very strong deck, because you're about to see right now just how strong that enchantment effect is of the Rune Giant. Look at this Inferno Dragon, and look at how much DPS it's melting out on that Giant. Giant itself gets melted, Zap comes down, Night Witch gets melted, the Flying Machine is also enchanted, and the guards actually do not come down in time. Bit of a mistake by Dominic there. If he protected that Flying Machine, it would have been so problematic on the opposing side of the board with that enchantment again. But Jorge Luis back to the Giant. Gonna have to see how Doom's actually going to defend this. Goes for the Evo Lumberjack. And he's actually going for the Rune Giant as well. So Enchanted Evo Lumberjack should do a pretty solid job of DPSing down this Giant. At the same time, Jorge Luis has to respond to the Rune Giant plus Lumberjack combination. So Lumberjack does do a pretty good job again with that enchantment. And Rune Giant will enchant the Flying Machine. You guys can see that a big component of the Rune Giant is, even when it dies, it's still going to have that enchantment staying alive. So look at this enchantment. Look at those arrows coming down. And we have the Evo Lumberjack on tower, plus the Flying Machine on tower, and that is all the damage back for Doom. So this is the battle of the beatdown goats right now, and not a single win con played by either side. Doom has not played his Lava Hound. Jorge has played his Giant, but not his Graveyard, so going to be very curious to see when both of them elect to go for those pushes. This is going to be such a good match, man. I feel like you got such amazing games in season. That's why I want to do a video like this, just spectating the best players in the world once more and just seeing how they do it. So Lava Hound does come down, tanking for the enchanted air troops in the Inferno Dragon and Flying Machine. And look at how the Inferno Dragon is just melting everything on the board right now. It's actually just crazy. So Evo Lumberjack, or rather Evo Musketeer, does come down, forced to take out that Inferno Dragon because it was just too powerful with that enchantment. Speaking of enchantment, Jorge Luis forced to go for a defensive giant. That's going to get melted by Flying Machine. Have you ever seen that before, guys? Flying Machine is still going strong with that enchantment, getting so many powerful shots off. And now the Lava Hound's going to be enchanted, which means if even one of those Lava Hound hits attacks the tower, that's going to be a lot of damage, where a normal win condition in the Lava Hound would not get much damage. But Lava Hound does get that enchanted Belch gone, 319 damage, pouring in. Constant bridge spam pressure by Dominic, but the Flying Machine just gets melted by the Musketeer, unfortunately. Rune Giant going to enchant that Lumberjack as well, so just constant enchantments by Dominic. You can see he's making so much usage of this Rune Giant right now, absolutely carrying this deck. And so Jorge does go for his first Graveyard of the game with a Night Witch plus Graveyard. Evo Snowball perfectly saved all of his Evos to line up with that push, and that is so much damage with the 0 Dagger Duchess. That is actually crazy. 760 damage on the tower in the left. 667 for Jorge, so very close game right now, and Musketeer has to defend all of this, but the Evil Lumberjack means the Ghost is also about to come down. Lumberjack's not going to get to the tower. Giant is forced out last minute. This is so tense, man. Lumberjack Ghost is coming down, melting the Musketeer, but a Graveyard is definitely coming down. How is Dominic going to defend this? Guards do come down. He probably has to go arrows as well, because arrows will come down to take out those guards. Yes, they will. No arrows needed for Dominic's side, but this is still so stressful right now. This is so close. This is genuinely anyone's game. Arrows come down, and the Rune Giant has to connect to the tower, but it's not going to. The Enchanted Inferno Dragon plus Enchanted Guard. Evil Lumberjack at the bridge. I think Dominic got the overwhelm right now. I believe. Graveyard comes down. Can he defend this Graveyard? Hold up. It doesn't matter about the offense. If he can defend the Graveyard too, the Flying Machine does snipe the tower, and the arrows do clean it up. That was such an insane match of two beatdown goats, like I said. I don't even have any words, man. Alright, and we have another banger of a match. We have Pedro versus Ian77. So Pedro, one of the most beloved players in Clash Royale, one of the greatest and one of the former CRL World finalists last year. If you guys recall, he was in CRL in 2024. Overall, just a very good player. I believe he has amazing top ladder finishes. He might even have a number 1. I'm not 100% on that, but I think he does. Either way, he's one of the best players in the world for sure, consistently. And we're going to see an amazing game right now. So really nice NATO away from Pedro there, because he wanted to prevent the Goblinstein ability from getting to the tower. We see a Miner coming down with this Magic Archer, and so we're going to see Ian playing his trademark deck, Hog Rider Earthquake with the Goblinstein Evo Firecracker, and Pedro is playing basically his trademark archetype, Miner Control with the Magic Archer. Always been a very good Miner player, you know, playing Mortar Miner at his prime, and then now he's switched to just be versatile with basically any deck. I remember he played this exact deck in World Finals, actually, with the Magic Archer. I believe he had a Bomb Tower in there at that time, but this deck's been very strong for a while now. We see a very nice play coming out from Pedro early. You can see he is ready with all of the tricks up his sleeve. If you guys did not know, that placement of the cannon is going to prevent that Hog Rider from getting to the tower with the Earthquake. So the Earthquake cannot hit the cannon and the tower at the same time, which means the Hog Rider player is going to be forced to either Earthquake high, or Earthquake will just miss the tower entirely. A very nice log plus EQ to take out that Magic Archer though. Skelly's forced out by Pedro. It's going to be a very nice match, and very nice micro pressure. Miner plus 2 skeletons, you can see. In these cycle mirror matchups, all of these tiny plays do really add up. Very nice Evo Ice Spirit by Pedro. I don't think he expected Ian to go for a log on that Miner, but that's going to be very serendipitous for Ian, because it will end up taking out the Evo Ice Spirit. At the same time, ultimately, at the end of the day, we are going into double elixir with a very even set of towers on the board. 3886 for Ian and 3826 for Pedro, with a pre-EQ on this Hog. NATO will come down. So you can see that even if Ian is not able to hit a cannon, or if he doesn't elect to go for the cannon at all, does Pedro, Ian still wants to go for the EQs with his Hog Rider basically every time, because what he wants to do is get that chip damage in with the Earthquake. Nice pre-cannon again. He's going to go for that shove every time. Forgot to actually elaborate on that play, but basically you play this cannon in the anti-Earthquake spot, and then you shove the Hog Rider over into it with that cycle card. Very nice NATO coming down by Pedro, going to get 2 Magic Archer piercing shots on the tower, and that's going to put him in the damage lead. Very nice Evo Cannon coming down from him as well, which is going to reset the Hog, stun, and keep the cannon alive for future generations. So a Goblinstein at the bridge by Ian. Some people, some pros have said that this Hog EQ deck is essentially Goblinstein the bridge simulator, because you have Hog Rider, which is going to force out a building like the cannon. Then you have the Goblinstein, which is also going to require a building most of the time. So it's very problematic and actually difficult to defend. but we'll see exactly how Pedro can control all of that pressure. And right now, this is actually such an evenly set match, man. Ian is actually in the lead right now, which I think is kind of crazy considering how hard of a matchup this is. I feel like this is, I mean, Goblin-Stein's an X factor. It can obviously change anything in any matchup, really. But I feel like ultimately this is definitely a Minor's matchup because you have the cannon for the Hog Rider, you have the NATO for the Hog Rider as well with the activated King, and it's just not too difficult. But very nice heads-up play by Ian there. You can see that he went Hog, actually going into that anti-cannon placement, because what he wanted to do was just kill that hog, or kill that cannon with the Hog Rider. He didn't really want to play around. He just nuked the cannon, predicting that anti-earthquake cannon placement. Going to see a very nice Evo cannon there to take everything out on defense, and actually snipes the Goblin-Stein Doctor earlier to kill it. So Evo cannon, actually quite a micro-intensive card. You know, you do kind of have to think about your placement, so you can snipe everything you need to. It will one-shot a Firecracker. It will kill a Goblin-Stein Doctor with the help of like a log and extra spell support. So just very important stuff over here. A nice Marcher NATO by Pedro. Going to be one lineup, not more than one. And that's going to be pretty good damage for him nonetheless, though. And now Ian is going to go Goblin-Stein Bridge Simulator once more. Pedro matching it with his own Goblin-Stein. And Ian does play his cannon. But a nice NATO by Pedro, attempting to get that ability onto the Stein. Not going to work out though, so that Doctor is still going strong. And you can see a big difference here is that Ian is keeping his Doctor alive, but Pedro does snipe it again with that Evo cannon. So still a very evenly set match, 1359 to 1222 on Ian's towers. Probably going to see another cannon, yes, down for Pedro here. That's a bunch of minor hits on the tower. Ian doesn't really have easy ways to defend these miners. No knight or anything to catch it. Does get the nice minor plus NATO off on offense, and Ian's going for the earthquake cycle, but Pedro gets the spell cycle in. So it's very close, like Ian going for the earthquake cycle, Pedro going for the minor log NATO cycle. And so Ian does actually catch that miner with the Firecracker, but it is not enough. Still going to be game for Pedro, but honestly very well played by Ian. I have to give him his props there, because I feel like that is kind of a hard match when you put up a great fight. Very well done by both sides, but ultimately Pedro just barely edging out on top. Very well done. Alright, we have an absolute banger of a match, guys. Riley versus Pedro, two CRL World finalists last year. Riley, of course, finishing number 2. Pedro in the top 8, and it's going to be a great one. So we have Pedro playing his classic Minor Magic Archer. Riley, of course, playing the classic Logbit. I feel like this matchup actually goes in Pedro's favor because he has the Log and Tornado to control the Logbait pressure. He has the Magic Archer, which is the biggest X factor here because Riley physically cannot kill it. He's playing Rocket, not Fireball, so if Magic Archer does get played, it literally cannot be controlled. Plus the Goblin-Stein is also very problematic, of course, being a very strong card in general, offering Pedro that 3-card cycle, and then also having that ability to pressure at the bridge, where you're going to be forced to play a building, or most likely take some damage on your tower. Very nice knowledge of the Goblin Barrel placement there, anti-NATO by Pedro, which means that he didn't have to go for the log. He just saved his log and went for Ice Spirit Skellies. But can we talk about the insane lineup of talent we have in today's season and watch party, guys? We have 3 CRL World finalists, Pedro, Riley, and Mohamad Light. Then we have people like Ian, Dominic. Like, this is just insanely fun, and I really enjoy this type of gameplay, so I hope you guys are enjoying this content too. Let me know if you'd like to see more end season watch parties, because this is just crazy. Speaking of crazy, Evo Barrel pressure by Riley there, but I believe Pedro will just go for the Evo Cannon to melt everything. In the meantime, huge damage lead coming in for Pedro, and I honestly feel like this game is basically over with that damage lead and the fact that Riley is most likely playing the Inferno Tower, not the cannon, I want to say, because ultimately he probably would have gone cannon on that Goblin-Stein earlier. I just feel like he has no hope in this matchup, and that's not a slight to Riley. I just feel like it's just going to be so difficult. A nice Magic Archer lined up on that Princess again. Basically every time he can get damage, and we're going to check, and oh my god, we have a game of Mohamad Light. I want to see if anyone else is in a game, because I feel like that was already game over. We have Mohamad Light in a game, guys. Mohamad Light number 1 in the world right now, 3699, playing to defend his title, because obviously other people like Pedro were getting up, and so we had to get that gameplay to secure his number 1 finish. Mohamad Light switching off the Royal Giant and playing Royal Hog's Earthquake. This is going to be insanely good against Sandbox, who looks like he might have sniped Mohamad Light playing Graveyard with Evo Knight, Evo Tesla. I feel like you don't really see this deck at all. I feel like this might be a snipe by Sandbox because number 1, he has a Tesla. No one plays Tesla these days, but Tesla's actually pretty good against this Royal Hogs deck because number 1 is probably the best building to be anti-Earthquake. And if you're playing Cannon, you can technically go for the anti-Cannon or anti-Earthquake Cannon placement, but it's a bit tricky to do with a deck like this, a heavy deck that doesn't have cycle cards to do the shove. Plus, Tesla is just easier to play 1 tile down from the bridge, anti-Earthquake given by default. Plus, it's just Evo Tesla, very strong against the pigs as well. Also, Mohamad Light's not playing the Evo Cannon. Can we talk about that for a second? He's playing Tesla of his own. I don't know what is with this Tesla nonsense going on in the game right now, guys, but maybe he tried to snipe Duminic, who is playing Lava Hound. Maybe both players tried to snipe someone, but obviously this is looking like it's going to be more favorable for Sandbox than Mohamad, especially because Sandbox already has the king activated, which means it's going to be very difficult for Mohamad to ever get damage in this game. So Queen the back, matched by the Goblinstein at the bridge for Sandbox. Evo Skellies will come down. Piggies at the same time, very nice piggies. Notice this, guys. Very beautiful play by Mohamad. Basically, Royal Hogs is a very strong win condition, and what you want to do with them, one of the biggest keys to success with this card, is pressure while defending. You see Sandbox built up a huge graveyard push. Mohamad Light went for the pigs at the same time, so that Sandbox could not go for a huge graveyard push with the poison as well, and he kind of just stifled Sandbox from overcommitting with that graveyard. Plus, he outcycled the Tesla, which means now he gets some nice piggies to the tower for 500 damage. So that is just very clean Mohamad Light doing Mohamad Light things. And right now, Sandbox still putting up a pretty good fight. You know, the damage is pretty even, only down 500 is Sandbox, and he does have the king activated, so that's kind of a big factor you can't discount. Naked poison cycle for Sandbox. Mo going for the Evo Ice at the bridge, forcing out the Barb Barrel, and an EQ cycle matching that poison cycle for Mohamad. So I think he might be waiting to go for his piggies. Maybe he's like going for his piggies after he sees a graveyard. He's going to go for the pigs right now, maybe anticipating a graveyard. As you can see, he forced out the Phoenix, and that means that he can just go for the Evo Skellies to clear that Goblinstein monster. And essentially just a great game of control by Mohamad, you know, never really allowing Sandbox to build a big push. Just pressure is the name of the game. Beautiful defense there. Tesla for the graveyard. Delivery for the graveyard too, and also cleans up the Goblinstein Doctor with those Tesla hits. We see a high Earthquake on the Tesla, so potentially threatening. Go for the pigs, and Sandbox, scared of the pigs, goes for a Phoenix, not even at 10 elixir. He was scared of the pigs. Mohamad Light being very patient, not even going for the pigs yet, goes for the piggies now with that queen taking out the Phoenix. And now I guarantee you guys we're about to see another set of pigs by Mohamad Light with that 3-card cycle having outcycled Sandbox's Tesla. He's like 3 cards away from the Tesla, and Mo is already back to the piggies, and they're going to come down right now, tanking for the Archer Queen. Beautiful play. Sandbox first to go for the NATO back, but that's still going to be a couple nibbles on the tower, plus the earthquake damage. Mohamad Light playing an absolutely crazy game. I did not even notice that we are in triple elixir right now. This is just absurd. So you're going to see exactly how Mohamad can take this game if he can maintain his lead, or if Sandbox can get the insane graveyard RNG and take it for himself. So you see the piggies, the earthquake, the queen very high, anti-poison placement on that queen, Evo Skellies for the Goblinstein, which will force out the ability. Then we'll see a late delivery on that graveyard, plus a ton of graveyard damage. Oh my god, wait, did Mohamad just throw? Hold up, that is like 800 damage pouring in. He had such a nice lead. Everything is gone. Sandbox is actually in the lead right now. That's crazy. Piggy's earthquake coming down from Mohamad. We see the Evo Ice at the bridge as well. He's back to the pigs already because of that 3-card cycle by the Archer Queen, and Sandbox is not back to his Tesla. He's forced to over-defend, going for the NATO Phoenix and Knight. In the meantime, Mohamad gets some nibbles on the tower. Sandbox forced to go for a naked graveyard that Mohamad will just tank for, go for the log, and tank with the pigs at the end. And that is going to be an insane game. 600 HP, and Mohamad is going to beat, I would say, a hard counter snipe with Royal Hog's Earthquake. Just Mohamad Light doing Mohamad Light things, man. You cannot be surprised at this man beating any matchup in the game. You guys can say glaze or whatever. I just say it how it is. He's the best player in the world for a reason. That is 7,328, but Pedro is also catching up 3,711, so either of those players could actually finish number 1. There's still about 10 minutes left in the season, so one of those players could play a game. I want to see who is going to go, and we do have a game, and it's Mohamad Light versus Pedro. There is no way right now. This could not be more poetic. We have Mohamad Light, the current number 1 player in the world, versus Pedro, the current number 2 player in the world, and also some of the best players in the entire world of all time in Clash Royale. So whoever wins this game will be claiming the number 1 finish. Not only will they get the number 1 finish for themselves, they will deny the number 1 finish from the opposing person who is also competing for that same title. This game could not get more crazy. And so Pedro gets a very nice early King Tower activation. Not too much damage coming in, I mean about 700 or so, but a pretty decent price to pay for a lifetime of an activated King Tower for the rest of the game. So Mohamad Light playing the same deck, he did not switch, and he's playing Evo Ice, Evo Skeletons. Pedro playing his deck, Evo Ice, Evo Cannon, and I do not really understand why Mohamad's playing the Tesla. I'll probably have to ask him this later, but I think it's actually going to make it worse for him in this matchup. I mean, I would already say this was a decent-ish matchup for Mohamad if he plays this well, because Archer Queen is just so strong against this miner deck that has no big spell, but the cannon is so good against the Goblinstein and also against like anything, like a miner maybe even some kind of other pressure like a magic archer at some points. But you can see right here, it's actually looking so precarious for Mohamad Light. Never mind, he actually takes 0 damage from what I thought he was actually in a lot of trouble. He actually takes 0 damage from that entire push. Just literally Mohamad Light things, man. Like, I don't understand. I thought he was in a lot of trouble because there was a Stein, there was a miner, he was low in elixir, but nope, just perfect micro, and he's going to defend that. So yeah, I feel like the Tesla is just a worse cannon in this matchup effectively. There's no air to be hit, so I don't really know why Mohammed is playing the Tesla, but nonetheless, we're going to respect his wishes, and it's obviously him knowing best because he's the best player in the world, so let's just not question it and just watch what's happening. So very nice pigs do come down to tank for that Archer Queen, going to force out a very nice Evo Cannon by Pedro, which will melt the Archer Queen. Also very nice Magic Archer by Pedro, which will get a lot of damage on the tower and force out a Delivery plus Ice Spirit. So dead even game, honestly. Both sides are kind of low for Pedro relative to Mohammed, but Mohammed's right side is also like equally low, with his left side pretty much untouched. So we're going to see piggies. Mohammed Light actually switching lanes. I guess he wants to go same lane in this matchup, going for the EQ on that March. Notice that interaction, guys. Earthquake plus log does kill a magic archer. You have to take note of that because that's very crucial. Ice Spirit does predict those skeletons. Very good prediction, which will help the queen stay alive. NATO forced out, plus a last minute log and an Evo Ice forced out as well, but that last minute log was very effective paired with that miner to serve as an offensive log as well. You can see these players have multiple layers behind all their plays, guys, where, you know, one defensive log not only defends on the defensive side, but also acts as a prediction log on skeletons on the opposing side, which is exactly what happened for Pedro right there. So cannon high for Pedro, Tesla high for Mohammed, and now Pedro has to defend these piggies without a building. Going to be pretty tough. Goes for the cycle cards, actually back to the building somehow. That is crazy fast cycle. But this queen now, the pressure of the queen is just crazy, like I said. Goblin Sign forced out, ability will come down for the queen, and the Marcher can kind of be ignored. We'll actually see an Ice Spirit for it, but it's not really that big of a deal because, again, the left side tower is very healthy. Evo Skellies come down to mispredict the miner, and a nice NATO away to keep that miner chipping away at the tower, and now Pedro taking Mohammed Light's tower down to below 3,000, so both players have the towers below 3k. Mohammed Light missing that Ice Spirit actually, so a rare miss, and that's going to be a lot of damage coming in for Pedro, so Pedro now taking the lead in the other side. Very good pressure by him the whole game, I have to say, and Mohammed's actually kind of struggling for damage right now, but Piggy's EQ, late Evo Cannon will come down, but the EQ will just melt that, and a NATO off, but the queen is still alive with that ability saved. Skellies come down, the miner is about to die, the Skellies will actually take out the Ice Spirit as well, and one queen hit is going to get on the tower. This is crazy. So now we're going into triple, and Mohammed Light is screaming back into damage lead, but can he maintain this damage lead, or will Pedro go for constant miners, maybe get one nice magic archer lineup to give him the entire game back? I do not know. This is so intense. This could not be more crazy of a game for number one. So queen high, Goblin Sign is going to come down to tank, pigs to pressure while defending, like I told you. The delivery will come down to help, but I can actually get marchered by another magic archer. I think Pedro is back. Yes, Marcher NATO will come down. That is one. That is two Marcher hits on the tower. Log forced out. Pedro is still in the damage lead, though. No, he's not. Mohammed's actually back in the lead with that earthquake. So piggies come down. EQ will come down for that cannon. Evo Skelly's late to prevent the Evo cannon from attacking them. A NATO away, though. Pedro in the lead again with another miner. Ice Spirit for Mohammed. Pre-log. Needs to get the earthquake off as well. Plus needs to defend this miner. Skellies will come down. Last minute NATO, but the earthquake will come down, and the log is not enough. And that is 810 to 864 HP. Mohammed Light taking the game by 54 HP. This could not be more poetic. That is absolutely insane, and that is going to be the season end final game. Mohammed Light taking the game, and that's going to be the end, I believe, right? Because there's number one in the world, 3756 medals. If you look at the leaderboard right now, Mohammed Light dethroning Pedro from any chance. He is going to drop 30, and that's going to be, I believe, the final season end leaderboard, because there's really not much time left in the season. Mohammed's, of course, in the top 50 in multiple accounts. Pedro, very impressive, actually, number 2 and number 3. That is crazy. As you guys can see, 1 minute 21 seconds left in the season, and that's just absurd. So Mohammed Light is going to get his number 1 finish, guys. There are no real other matches going on right now, so that's essentially going to be one of the craziest end season games I have ever seen for Mohammed to take the number 1 away from Pedro. That's just absurd. We actually do have one more end season game, Ian versus this Japanese player, but there is over a minute left in this game, so it's not going to count. If you guys did not know, when the season ends, that is it. If you're playing a match, even if you win it, it will not count towards your finish. So now we have a Hypno versus Remy. Yo, this match could actually count to season end, though, because if Hypno wins, there's 1 minute left in the season, right? So if Hypno does win right here, right now, he can actually get that. But Remy's going to try and survive, and it's not going to work out. Yo, Princess, random no-scope 360 onto the tower, and that's going to be Hypno taking the game against Remy. So that's going to count to his finish. Like I said, your finish has to count, your game has to count before the season end timer is reached, otherwise it will not count. And so now we are going to be finishing the season and checking on the badges. As you guys can see, Mohamad Light is going to receive yet another consecutive #1 ladder finish. His profile does not look any different because he literally just finished #1 last season, but once more, yet another #1. Genuinely the GOAT of Clash Royale, the greatest of all time. Massive congratulations to Mohamad Light for yet another #1. Great congratulations to Pedro as well for finishing #2 and #3, I believe, or somewhere in that vein. Very good fight put up by him, very impressive, and overall very amazing season. Hope you guys enjoyed. This was just absurd.